Hello, everyone. This is Tommy at World at War Comics, and today we have another amazing guest. But before we get into that, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit the ring bell. That way you get notified every time we drop another interview. And that way you stay up to date with everything that we're doing on the podcast. All right. This podcast is brought to you by Cien Chiles, CIENCHILES.com. The best hot sauce you could buy. Go to cienchiles.com. Use comics at checkout. You will save 15% off your entire order. It is also brought to you by Comic Crusaders. This is the best in comic book, movie, even music reviews. Go to comiccrusaders.com. You'll find me there as a contributor and a whole host of amazing professionals that are bringing amazing reviews to you every single day. All right, I'm really excited about this. One of my favorite writers, Robert Venditti, is joining us today. He has written one of the best runs of Green Lantern, the best run of Hawkman. In fact, Hawkman changed forever after he wrote it. Just absolutely incredible writer. X-O Manowar. If you like Valiant Comics, Valiant Comics is what it is because of Robert Venditti. And not only that, check out what he has going on right now. He has his brand new comic book, Savage Squad 6. If you're not reading this, you're missing out. I mean, no one survives. It's an absolute incredible comic book, and you would expect nothing less from a Robert Venditti. All right, without further ado, here is Robert and I. Enjoy. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the World at War Comics podcast. I have veteran, amazing writer, Robert Venditti. I am so happy to talk to you, my friend. Very excited. Big fan of all your work. Thanks for joining us today.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. When I reached out to you and you responded, I immediately got back into Hawkman again. Not that you don't have other great work, but man, the whole Hawkman series just changed everything for me, my friend. I mean, your storytelling in that has been absolutely fabulous, Robert. Man, I guess you probably did everything that you can do with Hawkman. In I think it was 26 issues.
29. Yeah,
29 issues, yeah. But man, I mean, I think everyone talks about Hawkman and the impact Hawkman has had on them. What kind of impact has Hawkman had on you? Because I feel like of everything I've read, this is the one that's had the biggest impact on me.
Gosh, I don't know. It's hard to say, you know.
Yeah.
It's definitely something that a lot of people still talk to me about to this day, you know. I don't know that it necessarily, you know, does as much for your career as like Green Lantern does or something, right? Because there just aren't as many Hawkman fans to begin with, you know.
Right.
But I'm enormously proud of it, you know. And when Brian Hitch were first asked about doing the book, you know, one of the big motivating factors for us is we felt like it was a character that there was an opportunity to do some defining things with and kind of put together a defining run. And at this point in mainstream comics, there's so few characters that don't have that defining run, you know. You know, Green Lantern has them. Flash has several of them. You know, Batman has several of them. And so we really hoped that we would be able to do something with the character that would become like a defining run. And, you know, we're both very pleased with how, you know, even years later, people still go back to it and talk about it. And, you know, we're both very proud of it. So I'm glad that people enjoyed it as much as we're making it, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you should be very proud of it. You know, I grew up, you know, I'm almost 50 now. So I certainly remember watching Justice League as a kid and seeing Hawkman, but he was always very mysterious to me, right? We knew he died a lot. We knew a lot of those type of things, but it wasn't until your run that I felt like he was really defined for the reader. I don't know if you hear that a lot from other people, but that was certainly my experience.
I think that, I don't know. I'm just texting my wife. I heard her coming downstairs, and I just
no worries.
I want to text her and be like, I'm on an interview, so she doesn't start.
No worries, Ron.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would say that a lot of fans out there were already huge Hawkman fans. You know, For me, I didn't start reading comics until later. I didn't grow up reading them. I didn't know anything about Hawkman really, except the visual that I recognized from cartoons. And that he had a reputation for being the most confusing character in all of comics. That really appealed to me because as a writer, you know, everybody has holes in their game, you know, but I feel like one of my strengths is an ability to take something that already exists and kind of figure out a way to make it work in a way that it hasn't before. It's something I did for the first time in Valiant with the relaunch of X-O Manowar. I really built out this mythology for the character and this background and these motivations and things. So with Hawkman, I saw an opportunity that if I could figure out how to make him not confusing, fix him in a sense,
right?
That was the really big challenge to me. And so that first night when I sat down and I was reading about the character, knowing nothing going in, I'm reading about him on Wikipedia, and of course there's two different entries because there's one for Carter Hall, the Golden Age version,
right?
There's one for Katar Hall, the Silver Age.
Yep.
So as I'm reading them, I go, well, I get it. He reincarnates across time and space, and the space cop is the same guy as the ancient Egyptian archaeologist.
Right.
That's not what ever happens in the comics, right?
Yeah.
That was my initial thought because I had no preconceived notions of what Hawkman was or what those continuities were. Once I found out that that wasn't what happens in the comics, I said, well, then I think that's how to fix it,
Yeah.
And so, very easily in that first issue that Brian and I did, he did this big double-page spread where, with just a few captions, Carl basically explains everything that's happened.
Yep.
And it's all one thing. And he says, I reincarnated across time and space. And it was like, boom. And then we were on for there. And going into it, we didn't know how people would take it because it is a big change to the character. But I remember that first day as that issue hit the stands and the reviews started coming in. And people were dumbfounded. Like, I can't believe these guys fixed Hawkman with 2 words on 1 page, And from there, like I say, it was just off and running. And, you said earlier, did everything I could do with the character. What we built in, we could have written 100 issues. We could have done 100 issues. Like now it's baked into the concept. And we kind of teased it a little bit, right? We did an issue where you meet the Kryptonian version of Hawkman, and we introduced one that was in the microverse, and there's a New Gods Hawkman. So literally anywhere in the entire DCU, whether through time or whether across space, Hawkman could have existed, and there's a story to tell there. And so there's a lot we could still do if we were still doing it,
Yeah. Do you feel like satisfied with the 29 issues, or did you have more and you wish you could have went forward more?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that, like with a new series, you never know how long it's going to go. And I kind of always go in, I hope it's going to be 12. I really hope it's going to be 24. Yeah. And after that, in the modern era of comics, anything after that is a blessing, So for me, I think it's 57 issues of X-O Manowar. I did something issues of Green Lantern. So I feel very fortunate that I've been able to have some of those long runs. Yeah. And, 29 issues for Hawkman historically is a very healthy run.
Yeah. For Hawkman, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Would I have liked to have hit 50 just to have a round number? Sure. But I'm happy ultimately with where we were able to leave the series. We ended it the way we wanted to end it. When I sit down to do an ongoing series, I kind of know what the final issue will be. I just don't know how much is going to be between the first issue and that one.
Right. Yeah. And the other question I had, because there was a DC event that happened while you were writing this, and I always wonder as a writer, especially when you're kind of in the flow, you have your story, and then all of a sudden, I think as You're the Villain takes place. And then you kind of have to stop what you're doing a little bit. Like, how much does that bother you? Or it is what it is and you're used to it and you just got to figure out how to tie it all in?
Yeah, so actually it happened with Hawkman twice back to back. Like
that's right, yeah.
You're the Villain,
what was the other one?
The other one was he got infected for some, I don't know, something. I don't even remember.
The Infected? This one?
Yeah. The other one was he got infected along with Supergirl, Sam, Blue Beetle, couple other characters, but Supergirl and Hawkman were the only 2 that had ongoing series,
Yeah.
So and the one came right in after the other one. One went right into the other,
Yeah.
Yeah, it is disorienting and it definitely throws you off track.
Yeah.
But again, I remember as my issues of that were coming out and people reading them and saying, I don't understand how they were able to fit this in and make it feel like it's not an intrusion on the story.
Exactly.
And it's a part of what they planned all along, when it is not what we planned all along. So, you do the best of those things that you can. Like I say, I feel like I was able to make it fit with the concept of our series already, which speaks to kind of the versatility of the time and space concept,
Yeah.
And when they threw that at me, I was like, well, how can I make this feel like it's part of the series that we're doing and not some big interruption,
Yeah.
And so we did that by introducing, bringing in a couple of classic villains, Shadow Man, and then also Gentleman Ghost for a beat. But then we also brought in the Shade and established a relationship between Hawkman and the Shade. And so we did some things there. And then with the whole infection, we were able to, make it that he was sort of having his conscious, overtaken by the Earth 3 villainous version of himself, And so we were able to kind of work with the concept in that regard. So those things aren't always the best, but it is part of working in a shared universe,
For sure. Yeah. No, that makes sense. That makes sense. You made a comment that you didn't grow up with comics. When did you pick up your first comic, Robert?
Yeah, I was in my mid to late 20s.
Okay.
Yeah. It was Astro City. Kurt BCX Astro City was the first comic that I read.
Yeah.
And I knew I always wanted to be a writer, going back to elementary school.
Okay.
And I was in grad school getting my master's in creative writing for fiction and things, And I'd published my first short story in a literary journal. But then I read my first comic and I decided I wanted to try to write comics, even though I knew nothing about the industry in any shape or form.
Yeah.
And so I finished up grad school and I volunteered to work in the warehouse of a comic book publisher called Top Shelf Productions, which has gone on to do huge books. They're now an imprint of IDW. And I was the first employee that they ever hired.
Nice.
And it was while I was working there that I really kind of learned about the inside nuts and bolts of the industry, but also did my first book, which was called The Surrogates.
Yeah.
Top Shelf
I think that did pretty well too.
Yeah. So I got really fortunate with that one. And that kind of was able to act as a resume piece for me going forward. And that was really kind of where my career started to take off,
Yeah. And was it after The Surrogates? Is that when you took over for Geoff Johns on the Green Lantern?
After Surrogates was X-O Manowar and the Valiant.
Oh, that's right. Valiant.
After X-O Manowar launched, then I went over to do
exactly.
Yeah.
No, I don't know why I said that. Yeah, you're right. So let's talk about Valiant, because that world that was created. I mean, there were so many awards that were given to Valiant during your run of X-O Manowar and everything else that was taking place within that shared universe. And I think it created a very unique fan base, because Valiant's, the world that they created, I thought was similar in some ways, but very different in other ways too. I don't know if you feel the same way, but I feel like in DC and Marvel, right, you have certain characters that have these powers that are just, I mean, they're almost like gods, right? There's almost nothing you could do to them. Whereas at Valiant, I felt like there was a weakness that was always there, and it was more relatable because of that. And I don't know if that was driven more from your side, or Valiant said, this is how we want our shared universe to look like.
Yeah, I think some of that was baked into the original Valiant,
Okay. Yeah.
Which again, I didn't read. I wasn't reading comics back then,
Yeah.
But when they first reached out to me about pitching on some of their titles, it was off having read The Surrogates and really liking that,
Yeah.
I'll never forget the first phone call I had with Warren Simons, who was the editor-in-chief for all those early years at Valiant, and really kind of oversaw editorially a lot of the relaunch of all those characters. My first call to him, I said, I'm going to be very honest with you. Not only have I never heard of any of those characters you just mentioned, I've never even heard of Valiant. I don't even know what that is. I didn't know it was a company, like nothing.
Yeah.
And he was like, that's perfect. It's exactly what we want. We want
that's cool.
And things like that, So that original core group of writers, which included me, Josh Dysart, Dwayne Straczynski on Bloodshot,
and
Fred Van Lente and Archer Armstrong, we kind of came in. I just remember Warren and Dinesh Shandasani talking about Valiant as being like world outside your window, I think my background as a writer, coming from fiction, I always thought about character first, and the imperfections of people and things like that. And so I don't remember there ever being anything they said to me about that, so much as that kind of being just the way I'm geared anyways, and so, it was a really fun place to work and to kind of build, and, a big risk for Valiant too, right? I mean, they're going to launch this new universe, and, I did X-O Manowar #1, and for a month that was going to be the only comic on the stands of this big relaunch. And in a lot of ways, I was virtually unknown. Like I had the Surrogates, which is kind of an indie hit, but there weren't mainstream comic book fans that had any idea who I was. Having Carrie Nord on the book definitely helped. An absolute genius. And I don't think anybody would have said that when Valiant launched with X-O Manowar #1 that I would have written 57 issues of it. So I'm very proud of that, and I did Eternal Warrior while I was there. We also did a couple of line-wide events. We did Armor Hunters. We did
Armor Hunters.
Really did a lot of stuff while I was there, and still proud of the work, and I still get people talking to me about it to this day. So
No, I mean, X-O Manowar is such a unique character, and I listen to Thinking Critical a lot too, and I know talking to Wes, he's a big fan, and I heard your interview back and forth. He's a bigger fan than I am. That guy is he's a huge X-O Manowar, but I mean, it's such an amazing character in the world that was created. I think you won Publisher of the Year 2-3 years in a row, I think.
I can't say I wasn't the publisher. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but I mean, it was because of your writing, I think, Robert, right?
Yeah, I know Armor Hunter. I mean, Josh Dysart's a genius too, and what he was able to do with Harbinger was just absolutely fantastic. But I want to say that Armor Hunters won some events, best event of the year, some awards for that and things. I can't really say. I don't know. Awards are weird, right? Because like I played basketball growing up. I was in school and I ran track and I ran cross country and all these kinds of things, right? If I'm out there and I'm running cross country and I beat somebody else, like I beat somebody else, like the time is what it is, and I crossed the finish line. There's no ambiguity here. Art isn't like that, right? Like, writing, art, none of it is like that, right? Like somebody could say that I'm the best writer in the world, and somebody could say I'm the worst writer in the world, and they're both right. It's all up to the person who, right? So like, I don't know, awards don't seem to make a ton of sense to me because it's just that one person's view. You know what I'm saying? I get that one voting body. So not that I discredit awards or Pulitzer prizes or any of those kinds of things. For me personally, it's not anything that drives me or that I strive for. So I can't really say what of that kind of stuff it won. I just know that it was a fun time to be there, and it was very much an environment where they were always throwing something at me, like second arc, you got to bring in Ninjak. And I was like, what the heck's a Ninjak? And like just the energy of it, and being a speedboat on a battleship and always adjusting to things and moving and everything. It was really fun. And I got to be good friends with those guys, and still friends with a lot of them today. And, a lot of them, of course, are a bad idea, and I do a lot of work for them. So, the roots of those relationships go back to Valiant and X-O. So.
Yeah, no, it was incredible. I mean, Livewire, Eternal. I mean, there's so many unique, amazing characters, and the way that you were able to bring them together and interact with one another. They were so different, with their backgrounds and whatnot. But man, it just really worked, and it worked for a long time. So another great run too that I think you have quite a few fans for.
I appreciate it. Yeah. And it's funny. Like I've only been recognized at the airport, I don't know, 2 or 3 times in my life. And I don't mean like I'm flying to a convention and the convention's full of people going to the convention. Yeah. I mean just I'm randomly at the airport and somebody will be like, are you Rob Venditti? And every time it's happened, it was somebody who was an X-O Manowar fan.
Yeah. Well, then we kind of jump into Green Lantern, and what another amazing run too, especially around. I mean, I became a really big Green Lantern Corps fan during that time. Big John Stewart fan because he was my Green Lantern in my Justice League. But man, the development of those characters too, especially Hal Jordan and everything that guy went through during your run was pretty impressive.
Yeah. Where do I start? I think if you were to start reading my first issue of Green Lantern, which is Green Lantern number 21 of the New 52.
Yeah.
I go all the way through issue 50 of Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps. And I said, once you add in annuals and things, it's something like 87, 86 issues, I think.
Wow.
You really see, I would hope, the evolution of me as a writer, not just learning how to write monthly comic books.
Yeah.
And not just learning how to write Green Lantern, which is a very sprawling, kind of continuity dense, wing of the DCU, but also learning how to work inside the DC universe itself.
Yeah.
And when they hired me to write Green Lantern to follow up Geoff Johns, at that time, I think I'd written 4 issues of Demon Knights or something, and like a handful of issues of X-O Manowar, and that was the entirety of my monthly comic book work.
Oh wow!
And I was following Geoff Johns, who was chief creative officer of the company. Had just done this 100-issue, defining run on the character. Had invented a lot of the continuity and mythology of the character. It still uses to this day.
Yeah.
And of course, I was not at that caliber. You know what I'm saying? I was a new writer.
Right.
Well, I really got beat up in those early days, and I don't think the New 52 stuff is my best work. But I am enormously proud of the Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps things that I was able to do and the stories I told there. And people always ask me, what would I go back and change, or are there any projects that didn't come out the way that I wanted? I wish I could do over.
Yeah.
For me, I don't think you can really look at it that way, because it's like bricks in a wall.
Yeah.
And if not having the foundational bricks of Green Lantern number 21 of the New 52, I don't get to the wall that has Hal Jordan the Green Lantern Corps in it. I can't go back and change those things. And I can't just be, and no writer is, birthed into this world fully formed. Writing the way they do on the first day, the way they would after 86 issues. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. So,
there was a ton of criticism that came in. And I still get people to this day who, hate my guts because of my early Green Lantern stuff. That's fine. That's part of the job.
You can't please everybody, right?
Yeah. To me, I'm enormously proud of where I ended up with Green Lantern. As you can see, I've got hanging on my wall back there. The 4 Corpsmen right there. One a splash page of each of them.
That's so cool.
I'm enormously proud of it, and wouldn't have gotten there without the experiences working on the earlier things.
Is there any stories that you wanted to tell with Green Lantern that you weren't able to tell?
Yeah, there was. It's funny. There was a lot of things I wanted to do that I didn't. Some of them I pitched and I was told I couldn't do them.
Okay.
And some of those ones that I was told I couldn't do have since gone on to have been done. Which isn't me saying that other writers stole my ideas or whatever. It's just they came to the same conclusion and they got greenlit and I didn't.
Later on, they're like, "Wait, that was a good idea."
Well, I don't even know if they know that. You know what I'm saying? I'm not. I would never accuse anybody of that.
For sure.
There are also ideas that I had for all the books I've worked on that I could have kept doing. Like I say, I kind of know where a book's going to begin and where a book's going to end. I don't know what's going to go in the middle, right? I had no idea how Green Lantern Corps was going to go 51 issues in the modern era of comics. That's crazy. And like people forget, but in that time with Rebirth, those were all twice a month. And so I'm the only writer from that whole Rebirth era that wrote every single issue of every comic book of that entire run, and every single one shipped on time. 51 issues in a row, right?
That's amazing.
So,
that's impressive.
To me, that's a huge feather in my cap. And so, there was other stuff I could have done, but there's always more stuff you can do. It's just a matter of when it's going to end, and are you able to end it the way you want to end it? Same with X-O Manowar. There were more X-O Manowar stories I could have done too that we already had ideas for and we'd already talked about. And if you go back and read that, if I went back and read it with you, I'd be like, that right there is a thread that I could have used. That was a thread I could have used. That was a thread I was going to use. And I kind of put them in there in a way that if they never get used, it doesn't feel like you were left hanging. But if I do use them, you're like, oh man, he did that all the way back when, And so that's kind of how I try to structure those kind of ongoing series,
Do you, as a writer, especially with the experience and all the different titles at DC that you've touched now, do you kind of pay attention where writers today are at within those titles that you touched before, just to see where continuity has continued to go, or just that's way too much work? And
I don't know.
Because I mean, there's always a chance that you
Yeah.
could go back to one of those books, and even if it's
Yeah.
just a few, like 4 or 5 issues. I didn't know as a writer if that's something that you kind of stay close to, since you do work with DC once in a while. No.
No, it's really not, and
Yeah.
it's obviously nothing towards new creative teams that
Yeah.
I have
No.
ill will.
I'm not
or
sure
anything
anybody
like
does that, by the
But,
way.
yeah, if you spend,
Yeah.
5 years staring at X-O Manowar and thinking about X-O Manowar all the time, I'm kind of looking forward to thinking about something else.
Probably, yeah.
And if it were to come back around that I were to write those characters again for some reason, Green Lantern, X-O, whatever, I can easily go back and read what happened in between.
For sure. Yeah,
but it's more about that job is done now. I'm on to new challenges. What are the new things that I want to go take a look at? So I have no idea what's happening with Hawkman or Green Lantern or X-O Manowar or any of those kinds of things,
Yeah. I know as a fan, right? We, especially with Green Lantern, I do enjoy Green Lantern quite a bit. And there's been a very dry spell with Green Lantern over the last couple of years, just because it hasn't really been touched until just recently, when Jeremy Adams was brought on to write the Hal Jordan Green Lantern. And then what's his name? Kennedy Johnson has been brought on, Philip, to do the John Stewart War Journal. So we had this gap of like over a year where like we might get a one shot of Green Lantern, but there's been nothing like a year, maybe a year and a half. And so, I obviously we noticed that more as a fan of the comic book than you probably would. But
well, after there was the Grant Morrison run, and then after the Grant Morrison run, there was another run that.
And then we had a gap for probably.
Okay.
I don't know how long, but yeah, it was a little bit of a gap there, and all of us, because we have a Reddit for Green Lantern fans, we're like, man, when's something coming with Green Lantern? And then we heard Jeremy Adams, and then Philip Kennedy Johnson came on, and now everyone feels real comfortable. And now there's a TV series coming out on HBO with James Gunn, and now we're getting more Green Lantern than I think we've ever had in our life. So it's just kind of neat to see that the character has been picked up again and being written again as it should be, because I feel like Green Lantern in the lore of the Justice League is such an important part of that for DC not to have anything happening, I don't know, it kind of hurts as a DC fan. So then, Robert, we get into some of the newer stuff that you're doing, and the reason I really reached out to you is because I picked this up. Yeah. And man, I picked it up. I read the first issue, and I'm like, holy crap, man! And then I got the second issue. I'm like, man, Robert, I hope you have something up your sleeve, man, because you're not going to have much to write about here pretty soon. I don't want to give everything away. I think people should go out there and read it. But it's not looking good for some of the characters that you had. Yeah,
we wanted to do the book's called Savage Squad 6, and I wrote it with one of my best friends named Brockton McKinney. We're really, really close. It's a story we've been talking about doing forever. We wanted to do something that really kind of harkened back to like an 80s, 90s action movie aesthetic, Predator type film, that kind of thing. And I think that we love all the characters we created, but we didn't want to be protective of those characters to where we didn't do what would make for the best story. You know what I'm trying to say? Yeah. And that's kind of always the way you have to be. They always say kill your darlings. I don't ever do it pointlessly or for shock value,
Right.
I don't ever shy away from it if it's what's best for the story, And so the concept of the book is there's a team set in the near future of women mercenaries who are dropped off into the Chernobyl exclusion zone, which is the area where the Chernobyl reactor meltdown happened. And they're going in there to extract nuclear fuel rods from the old power plant. And while they're there, they end up encountering something that's hunting them across the terrain. And the idea came out of something that my daughter told me about when she was younger. She saw something in school about how much nature had reclaimed that area because it's like this one place on Earth where humanity cannot go because it's lethal. And so the wildlife is taking back over, and it's like in its own way, it's like a safety wildlife preserve.
That's awesome.
Because people can't go there and ruin it for animals,
Yeah.
And so the idea kind of was born out of that,
Yeah, no, it's really exciting. There's so much action and fighting in it. I absolutely loved it. We just got, I think, issue 3 a week ago.
Yeah, issue
with
4
a
I
couple
think
weeks
comes out in another week or two, and then that'll be the end of that first
of that
volume
run.
of the story. Yeah.
Yeah. So is that what you're working on moving forward? You're going to have quite a few creator projects that you have kind of up your sleeve?
Yeah, some, I obviously, Wesley Dodds Sandman launched from DC today. And
I
then,
saw that. Yeah.
yeah, we announced a new Superman 78 series that launches next month.
Yeah.
So, I've got some projects I'm doing at DC. I've got a lot of projects I'm doing for Bad Idea. I've got 3 miniseries I'm doing for them that are completely written.
Oh, really?
We're talking about doing a few more. Um, so I try to keep busy with a lot of different projects and things. And I do like to do creator owned, but I do like to work in the shared universes as well. It's kind of like flexing different kinds of muscles,
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
creatively, if it's creator owned book, you can do whatever you want. That's one kind of creativity. But if
Yeah.
you're working in a shared universe and you're beholden to the rules of that universe and event tie-ins and every other thing, that's another kind of creativity because now you have constraints put on you and you have to work within those constraints.
Yeah.
And it'll lead you down creative paths that never would have existed if the constraints didn't exist to begin with. So I like doing both, and I've got a fair number of things I'm working on. I'm trying to think in my head how many projects. 1, 2, 3, 7. There's over 10 things I'm working on right now. Yeah, I think only 3 of them have been announced. So.
Oh, really? Wow. Now, when you look at like DC or actually any universe, is there a character that you feel like would be the perfect fit for you to write, but you've never had the opportunity to write it yet?
Yeah, I mean, Superman was always my Mount Everest.
Yeah.
I said earlier, I didn't grow up reading comics.
You could check that box, can't you?
Yeah, I did watch the Christopher Reeve films growing up, and so
yeah,
to be able to do the Superman 78 stories with that particular version of Superman is huge.
Yeah.
I would always love to do more Superman. The JSA characters I love. I would love to do a JSA book, or like I'm doing with the Wesley Dodds miniseries, do one for Hourman, do one for Wildcat, really do some stories with some of those characters. I'm not a big Bat family person, but I do like Nightwing.
Yeah.
Nightwing is kind of like the Superman of the Bat family in the sense that he's hopeful and bright and all those kinds of things. And so I would like to do Nightwing someday. Those I think would be the ones that come to mind the most.
Yeah. Now, as far as how long you've been working with DC for how long now, Robert, off and on? Because you've written so many different titles for them.
It's got to be close to 10 years. Yeah, I don't remember when our first issue of Demon Knights came out, but I want to say it was 2013.
2013, yeah.
It's got to be 10 years. Yeah.
What an amazing career in such an amazing universe too.
Yeah, it's a long time. Yeah, I think I've written over 330 things now.
Yeah,
which is crazy. I remember, being younger and wanting to be a writer and saying to myself, if I could just publish one thing one time with my name on it, I'll know that I did it, and then I'll go work construction like my dad did, or whatever. So to be able to do it for as long as I have, I don't take any of it for granted, and to still be working on the characters that I do, and I had a book turned into a film, and my books have been New York Times bestsellers, and all these impossible things that are just complete absurd events that I never thought would happen, but I don't ever get old. I don't feel like I deserve it any more than anybody else does, and I don't ever take it for granted, and or any of those kinds of things. Every day's a gift, and so I feel very blessed to be able to still be doing it and to still have people that want me to talk to them on their show, or want me to just sign a book for them at a comic book convention or whatever. It doesn't get old,
No, it's amazing, and from a reader standpoint, right? I think a lot of us go to comic books just to kind of escape, and that's not a negative, right? There's good things we want to escape from too, right? But it is an escape, and we want to get lost in another world. And when you find a writer that could make you forget what happened the last 20 minutes because you were really into that issue, I mean, it's pretty special. And so I know you've done that for me, and you've done that for a lot of others. And And so
Yeah.
I'm super excited to have had the opportunity to talk to you about everything that you're working on, Robert. As far as like where you're going to be, are you still pretty active on the Comic Cons? I see you on Instagram and stuff. And I know you do some travel. Do you have like a set like ones that you're going to be at for the remainder of the year that people can find you?
So I've only got 2 left. I think I've done 4 or 5 this year, and I've got 2 left. So I'm going to be at NC Comic Con in Durham, North Carolina, the first weekend in November.
Okay.
Then I'll be at GalaxyCon Columbus in Columbus, Ohio, the first weekend of December.
Oh, okay.
That'll be my last show for the year, and then I'll start building out where I'm going to go next year. So
yeah. How many times did you get to the West Coast, Robert?
When's the last time I was out there?
Did you do San Diego this time?
I haven't. Yeah, so I did it 16 years in a row.
Oh, that's a long time though.
And then the COVID year, obviously I didn't do it. That broke the streak.
Yeah.
I didn't think they'd have it in 2021. Or maybe they didn't have it in 2021.
I don't think they did. I think 2022
virtual, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
I didn't think
weird.
they'd have it in 2022, but they did. That one kind of caught me off guard.
Yeah.
So I didn't make plans to go. And then this year, I just had family vacations and things I was doing, and I just kind of decided to stay home. But I would like to get back out there. I don't think I've been. I don't know. I haven't been west of the Mississippi for a comic convention
a while.
For 4 signings since before COVID.
Yeah. We'd love to see you in San Diego. I went just one day this year, but
is that where you're at? You're out that way?
Yeah, I live in Southern California. I live near Palm Springs. So San Diego is only about an hour and 45 minutes from our house. I actually work down there. I work inside my house, but our office is in San Diego. So yeah. A lot of comic book stores. It's a pretty cool area to grow up.
Yeah, I love the city. I used to come every year. Yeah, for sure.
No, we could definitely got to get you back out here next year, Robert. Well, Robert, I want to be respectful of your time. I really appreciate you coming on. Huge fan. Would love to have you back on in the future as you come out with these other 7 items that are done, but you can't talk about yet. I can't wait to see them. Anytime you come out with something, I always look for it because I do think you're one of the better writers out there, and I really appreciate you coming on.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much. And check out the Sandman book and hope you like it. Glad you're enjoying Savage Squad 6, and appreciate you taking the time and having me on.
Absolutely, Robert. Thanks again so much. Really appreciate you.
Yep. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.